Welcome to Senior College in Action, a presentation of Senior College at Belfast. We provide a variety of classes, field trips, and special events for members who come from throughout Mid-Coast Maine. Anyone 50 or older may join along with their spouse or partner. And now, thanks to the technology of video and the financial contributions of supporters, we're able to share with you today one of our offerings.
Okay, so we're back at the Hidden World of Business here at the Hutchinson Center Senior College. Everyone's a critic. After the first hour, Ned Leitner said to me, Mike, there's other businesses. And I'm like, yes, I know, there's other businesses. And we're not just talking about the internet. We're trying to answer that question, where do people work? This is a great example of that the internet has enabled, and other communications enable people to do things that are not visible to people. And it's not everybody. There's going to be, this is like an endless world of, if the internet went down tomorrow, the economy would just simply collapse. You couldn't replicate it. Anyway, one of these great examples of this is, who's done a great job, is the very excited friend of mine, Jim LeClaire. He's an incredible promoter, and he's with Smart DataMap Services, and I'm going to just read this, because he felt a change in how travelers found businesses while operating the Maine Coast Welcome Center when travelers loaded with a carload of paper brochures couldn't find a specific hotel and returned to the Welcome Center to say, hey, we found what we needed on GPS, but it wasn't on any. Jim took his corporate facilities mapping experience and developed Smart DataMap Services, which pinpoints business locations and information to customers and so customers can navigate to the correct business. And last, I just want to say, I was going to a campground in southern Maine, and I'm following it on the Delorme map, and when I got to where it said it was, I was looking at the edge of a river, and the place was on the other side of the river, so.
Oops.
With that, I give you Jim LeClaire.
Thanks, Mike. Yeah, so I'm Jim LeClaire with Smart DataMap Services, and I'm a Mainer from way back. We're located over on what used to be Yankee Trader Building, which is now Robinson S. Consignment, which for a period of time was the Maine Coast Welcome Center. So I'm going to show you my history and my qualifications. Anybody ever read that book about everything you knew about business or something you learned in kindergarten? Well, here's my education start. So I did graduate in Limestone, Maine. Anybody know where that is? So born in Caribou, and then went to Limestone, and then ended up going to school in Bangor. And then my career was in technology. I actually worked for Data General. It was my very first job out of school, graduated from University of Maine. And I had two great educations at Data General. So I started in 1978, back when there was a business in Maine or industry in Maine called manufacturing. In 1981, Data General laid off 900 people. Back in the day before layoffs were done with any grace. So somewhere along the way, I learned that you got to be flexible on your feet, because some of the stuff that I learned at Data General, I carried into other businesses and other job opportunities that I had. So one of them was, we got into computer mapping, facilities management. We actually worked with Northeastern University, keeping track of all their square footage. So this building would have so many square feet, and it would be associated to a particular department, and they would do chargebacks against it. So this room, for example, say this room here would get charged off to this department, and they'd roll all this stuff up. So this was my background, and this was what I found really, really tedious. So I was really glad to get out of this when the market kind of shifted around, And my wife and I decided to go RVing and get into hospitality business, got out of engineering all completely. So we lived in an RV for 5 years, and we worked for KOA Campground and some other building these paper directories and learning the hospitality business. Perfect fit for Maine. So we ended up settling in Belfast because Belfast is the center of the Maine coast. Just sort of naturally, it's a great position. So we ended up building this welcome center at 169. It was called the Maine Coast Welcome Center. And we distributed information for travelers all the way from Brunswick, Maine, to Eastport, because they'd come into Belfast on their way someplace, and we'd help them find a place to stay in Acadia area. And then we'd give them one of these, either a chamber guide or one of these Our Town maps, because they were like hell-bent to get to Bar Harbor. And I said, when you come back, and sure enough, they'd come back, and then they'd discover Belfast. So it kind of worked out really good that way. So when we gave them these brochures that showed where these properties were, they'd come back a couple of days later with maybe a comment card. And this lady, she was what I would call a retired person. She came back that one day, kind of like Mike was saying, and she said, you know, Jim, I really wanted to stay in that place. The brochure looked really, really nice, you know, but man, we couldn't find it. And when we got up to Acadia, Bar Harbor, that place was really, really busy, but our car came with one of those GPS thingies. She didn't care about the technology, and I'm thinking to myself, you don't have to be technical to use these tools. She saw a screen in the car, hotels, pushed the button. She said, honey, there's one 50 yards away. That's where they stayed. And I went back and I looked at it. We represented that property with paper. And I looked at my GPS and I said, huh, big problem here. So that's when Smart DataMap came along to show people how to get to these places. So this is where it used to be. This is where it is now. How many of you folks in here have a smartphone? Okay, so 30%. The population it's changing so radically that it's really, really amazing. People are using these things to find businesses. So what Smart DataMap focuses on is brick and mortar fulfillment. When someone finds a business on the internet, they do all this research from far away, but when they get close to that location, they go to the place that it's easiest for them to navigate to. And if they rent a car that has a Garmin GPS in it, they're going to use that. If they rent a car that has somebody else's GPS into it, they use theirs. What's really fascinating is how the car companies have just recently figured all this stuff out, because they understand that the screen that the traveler's looking at the point in time when they make that purchasing decision has got some real value to it. So anybody ever hear of Nokia? Used to do smartphones. They had a map division that kind of atrophied as Microsoft bought them. They've got great maps. About a month ago, a couple really, really interesting things happened. The European Automobile Consortium bought these maps. They're called HERE maps, H-E-R-E, and they're among the most accurate maps that are out there, and they paid $2 billion for these maps. Because now when you buy a new Mercedes, Volvo, BMW, Volkswagen, they are going to own the screen that you're looking at. And now they can sell advertising space and to compete with Google. And the other interesting thing that happened was Facebook decided they didn't want to use Google Maps either, because they want the advertising revenue. So they're using HERE maps. So, everybody is going towards smartphones. This slide from before transitioned into something that looks like this. Okay? There's a map. This is the physical location of a place. So the example I'm using here is we don't use addresses anymore. A smart business, the GPS knows where you are. So if someone's giving directions, I don't tell them directions. I don't say come to 169 Searsport Avenue to find me, because there's two places of business in there. With a business place, not only do they have the physical address, so it's a lot easier to type in Smart DataMap into my GPS than it is to type in 169 Searsport Avenue, Belfast, Maine. And then they also get the fact that, oh, here's the place, here's what they do, here's their phone number, here's their website, here's their email. So from their phone, they can make a quick call and contact the specific business that they're looking for. So, some actual examples of some businesses that we've done here in Belfast. Private Home Care is located on High Street in Belfast. From Google's perspective, that's one of the worst mapped streets in Belfast in particular. So this company is located on the inside of Belfast, down by Waterfall Arts, and Google had them on the other side of Route 3, heading out towards Brooks. Very confusing for their customers. So what we did is we changed those physical locations, not just on Google Maps, but on all the maps, so that it doesn't matter which service that they're using. And along the way, also brought in all their information. And along the way, we discovered that their phone number, which I hadn't even thought about initially, the phone number is what all this information gets attached to. So the phone number that they have, just as the tourist season started up, they started getting all these phone calls at Private Home Care for gifts. Gifts, what's up with that? Well, there used to be a business in Belfast called Beyond the Sea. Yes. On Main Street. When she left Belfast to go down into Lincolnville, she decided to give up her phone number. Big mistake, big mistake. So now we had to go and find all the listings that were out there that were referencing Beyond the Sea that were now ringing over here and clean all that kind of stuff up. So that's the data side of data mapping, is cleaning up the information all the way from the phone number to so if anybody is into data, the acronym that people used to use was called name, address, and phone number, NAP in the data mapping world. Now with internet and databases, now this is the name, address, and phone number, is 140 fields of information that can describe where you're located. That's the simple part. What do you do? Are you just a retailer? Do you sell gifts? Do you sell things for weddings? You know, the categories, that type of thing. And then hours of operation, so that all of this can be mapped out there. So if anybody's interested in data, you know, I'll hand one of those. You can take a look at that. Another example is when a business changes a name. So this is, everybody know Barry, our buddy over at Fireside Inn and Suites? Remember what that used to be? Comfort Inn. Comfort Inn. So round about December, Peter Daigle, the GM, a couple years ago, called me up. He said, I just found out that come January 1st, going to comfortinn.com is not going to help Fireside out much. And that's what the website was linked to for this particular property. So we went in and fixed all that information. Just recently we found out that the Waterville facility, which used to be a Best Western, had some links still to Best Western. So we're going into, so this side of things, we're going through the whole data side and mapping all the information relative to them. Other businesses, remember I said we don't have to talk about address? Anybody ever go to Fiore Olive Oils? Yep. So for a consumer coming to Maine, they don't know where anything is, all right? So when Fiore now has expanded, all they have to do, because they're properly data mapped, is type in Fiore, Maine. That's it. And the maps figure out that there's one in Lewiston, Freeport, Newport, Bangor, Bar Harbor, and Rockland. So it makes the consumer's choice much, much easier without even having to know where they're located at all. All they want to know is Fiore, which they might have found. Fiore also sells on Amazon. So a consumer might have found Fiore on Amazon when they're doing their travels. They come to Maine, they want to go to see the real place, right? Properly data mapped, it's really easy for them to do that. Now, Mike talked about, do you need a website? Let me give you an example. This is some friends of ours that run a place called Rat's Clams, okay? This is Richard Allen Taylor and Connie Taylor, two-person operation up on Acadia. And we worked with them. Let me show you what we did. Oh, Mike mentioned this Facebook thing. Anybody here on Facebook? Facebook is like quick response. How long does it take for people to find out about what's going on Facebook? Not very long. I took this picture down here. This is what people do nowadays. They share information like this. So here's a customer. This is Richard Taylor. Two-person shop, no tech department, no nothing. So Richard called me up. He's like, I understand you fixed that internet stuff. I'm like, yeah. What do you want to do? He says, well, the problem I have is that somehow my cell phone got onto one of those internet map things, and it's ringing off the hook for all these tourists coming into the area. The problem is, I'm in the Clam Flats, the phone's in my pocket, and Connie isn't getting the phone calls. So something so simple as that, we just change the number on his. He uses a Yelp listing because he does not have he doesn't have a Facebook, he doesn't have a website, and he can't expand. So Yelp was sufficient for him because he was properly mapped so people could find him. So let's see what Richard has to say.
Do you ever read the reviews on the internet?
My wife does, yeah. It's quite satisfying. You know, how nice people could be, and to write about us up here in this little humble place, and with a good find, good tasting product.
So what's the farthest away you think someone ever found you from?
I would have to say Singapore, Beijing, Timbuktu.
How the heck is anybody from over there going to find you over here?
Well, like I say, it's the technology of this world that we live in. With the internet.
Jim, could you add, how many people use Yelp?
Yelp is a social media site. This is Yelp. How many, so Yelp is just a subset of this internet data mapping world. When it's done properly, you don't have to have a broad coverage. You just have to be niche based. On your Facebook pages, how many likes have you got on some of yours?
On the Colonial, 3,500 people.
Yeah, yeah. So that's pretty good. In this area, that's probably among the highest for Belfast. So this little two-man shop, this is literally out of his house. He can't expand because he'd have to get a new freezer and get into all the state laws and stuff. He has, I checked the other day, 4,900 likes on Yelp. This is people that have come to his place. So right now, he's listed as the #1 place to get seafood on all of Mount Desert Island. It was funny, his wife Connie is, she takes care of the shop and Rich is out digging clams. His niche is prime, clean Maine clams. He goes to breaks his back to go out and find them. And the Oriental market loves fresh seafood. So he's maxed out. So as I got there, I noticed this sign. We took these pictures for him just to kind of, that's part of the data mapping, is to, make your identity clear. So we didn't change. This is literally his sign. We don't change it because that's what the person driving by sees, right? So he actually he's so well liked by his clientele. One of them was an artist. They did this woodcut for him of that particular sign, and they were making little postcards out of it. And so I'm asking Richard, how are you going to grow your business? You want me to do a web page? No, I got too much business now. How's that for a problem, huh? Well, it is a problem because he can't maximize. So I said, have you ever considered, coming out of the hospitality world, right, T-shirts? Have you ever considered T-shirt? And he's scowling like this. He says, have you been talking to my wife? She said I should do that. And I said, hey, this digital world we're all into is really, he found someone that would produce T-shirts for him locally, one-ups, I think she ordered 24 because she didn't want to have this big overhead. One color, black and white, I think was this logo. Next time I saw her, I said, how'd that work? And she's smiling from ear to ear. She said, I made $400 in the first week selling T-shirts. And she went to Richard and said, hey, Richard, how long would it take you to dig clams to make $400? So now all of a sudden they've got many other colors. So when someone comes to the area, so Mike, I got 10 minutes?
10 minutes.
So we're going to talk about how would someone find a place when they're coming into Belfast. So say, for example, I want to come to Senior College. So I type in Senior College into my GPS. This is live, by the way, so this is how long it... So Senior College doesn't have a DataMap Presence. So what the computer does, it tries to figure out best guess, finds the Hutchinson Center. Not too bad for this type of a business, but say you were looking for the Fireside Inn, and you found another hotel. Would not be good for you. These are those HERE maps that we've been talking about. This is one of the maps that's really going to make a big impression. A couple things I want to show here is if you're new to Belfast and you're driving on your GPS, kind of looking around downtown Main Street, the GPS is going to take you right here. And then all of a sudden, you're going to have to make a decision to someplace you've never been, and what might happen. Anybody know it's located right here?
That's how that keeps happening.
So this is where the mapping side of things really shows up. Also, what's interesting to see is these are the businesses that are just available. Now again, all I've typed in here is just a location here. I haven't typed in, I'm not looking for anything, I'm just a traveler, right? So the map is going to try to educate me and say, okay, you can see we get some of these issues we get into. This is the weather vane. Nobody's told the maps it's closed yet. We also get into this place here, Front Street Pub. They've got really good restrooms here. Anybody familiar with where Front Street actually is? We're working with the chamber over here, and then we've got things that could be mapped is, see this here? So things that can be mapped don't have to be physical businesses only. They can be events. We do work with Arts in the Park. So someone traveling to Belfast will see this festival all season long. So get this pre-marketing thing going on. When if someone's interested in Arts in the Park, they'll find out that they're either at the right time to see it this weekend or they missed it. But if they're really into it, this can drive a return visit next year. So that's why we do this kind of stuff. This is what we're going through. We've talked with City Planner Wayne Marshall. We're registered with HERE Maps as editors. So we're going in there. We're going to take care of this with Wayne. How's this look? Might be a little clearer, you think, for the traveler? Come down here, down into the parking lot, one-way loop back like this. And again, remember, it doesn't have to just be a business or event or anything like that. Could be something like, anybody tried this Harborwalk?
Yes.
Anybody use TripAdvisor? Anybody know what the #1 thing to do in Belfast is right now? Harborwalk. Harborwalk. So that was one of those decisions that, this whole data mapping is kind of geared into hospitality. Things like Arts in the Park, harbor walks, are attractions to an area. I mean, we all, as far as when we represented with the Welcome Center, we represented, the Mid-Coast. Everybody said, well, why don't you just represent Belfast? It's like, well, people don't come here just to see one area. They're looking for the whole thing. So Belfast, this becomes the attractions that would bring people so that they could stay in Belfast and then reach out to the other areas. Next year is going to be the bicentennial for the Acadia National Park. And they're expecting 3 times the traffic to Acadia next year as this year. It's going to be really, really good for Belfast because you can drive there from Belfast or drive to here from Belfast. So. Let's take a look at, we're going to look for this senior college again. We're going to use Google Maps. That's what a lot of people see. And again, it can't find senior college, but it finds Hutchinson Center. So at some point in time, if you know, senior college wants to be attractive to other areas, it would be a good thing to have a presence in there. And it's also interesting, when did Camden National build? Interesting, huh?
Where is that on the road? Can't really see. Yeah, but is that where? They're not out there.
We have a branch out on 3, right, Camden National?
Yeah, but they're showing it right out at the.
Right out of here, yeah,
Right.
exactly, the
Yeah.
proportions are
Yeah.
way off. It's like,
How do I find clients? They pop up all the time. When I work with anyone, I always, you know, I see people that are in the area. So when I see Camden National being down here, it's like, huh. So I'm going to open it up now to some questions. Ned.
I was Googling where my business was.
Yep.
And it put me like about 2 blocks away from where my business was. Not that my business is retail, so it wasn't crucial, but it was on Google that I looked.
Yep.
And and then I said, how do I fix it? And there was a way that you could report to Google that you think their directions were wrong and you could change it. And so that fixed it on Google, but now there's, you know, Bing is running around with their Street View stuff and things. How many different places do you need to tell them that the location is wrong with your business? Because I just kind of left it with Google because that's the one I use all the time, and I love, you know, looking for stuff in Street View and stuff.
Yep, there's a data map is actually a hierarchy of information. So thank you for the segue. We're what's called root level data mappers. So this information here can be submitted at a central source level is what we do. And then people like Google, Bing, they'll buy the data from somebody else. Anybody ever here start up a business? So how many days after you registered your business name with the state or somebody did it take for the credit card companies to find you?
Yeah, like no time.
Right. So they buy the data. All the data it's just, you know, follow the money. That's how it all works. So to fix, for someone like Rat's Clams, doing it individually was sufficient for him because he's already overwhelmed. If we did any more for him, he couldn't handle the volume. So doing one site for him was okay. For most businesses, you want to do more than one. And there are literally hundreds, if not thousands, of different sites. So when we do data mapping, one of the first things that we do is we do what's called a discovery to see how the businesses appear out there. That's how we discovered that Beyond the Sea still showed up with a phone number that Private Home Care does now. So then what we usually do is we'll map a business, and then we'll see where it gets picked up, and then we'll go back and see which one of those are a good fit. Because this gentleman, a lawyer here, has a completely different market base than someone that's selling clams. So they don't necessarily go to the same places. Google's a good place to start, but unfortunately Google Maps are used more on a desktop than they are in a car.
Well, I mean, I use it all the time, it's my GPS to get places.
Right. 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 You can use a smartphone has a GPS functionality in it.
Yeah, with Google Maps, and you just, you know, I use that as my way to get.
Yep, Google Maps is a good way to find things, and then there are a lot of other ones that use other types of maps. For example, if you're using Facebook to find things, you wouldn't be using Google Maps. If you had an iPhone, you'd probably be using something other than Google Maps as well.
Okay, Jim, I just want to give as an example, you know, what Ned just used and why your service is so incredible. I mean, imagine you're home, you look in the yellow pages, you want to go somewhere, you write down the address, you go there, it's not there. That's the equivalent of what's happened, and these addresses are all over the place now. And you just showed it, Camden National Bank. You know, just imagine you're coming in, you don't have cash, it's in the middle of the night, you're looking for your bank, you put in Camden National Bank, and you end up out at the end of the driveway of the Hutchinson Center. It's frustrating. So, Jim, thank you very much. And I know, I notice you guys, most of you don't use Yelp and TripAdvisor. I travel a bunch, and it has totally changed my experience. I was down in Miami, and I'm looking for a good Cuban breakfast. And, you know, here comes under Yelp. But is it closer? Which one is closer? Which one has the most best reviews? $, 1, 2, 3, 4. And I find one incredible place after another. And it has totally changed how I travel, how I eat, how I visit, but it cuts both ways. If your place stinks, you don't want to read your reviews on Yelp. And I have seen restaurant owners in Belfast just hang their head and go, oh my God. And it really, there's one place that was pretty famous for bad service. Like they had made it into an art form. And when you went in and read the reviews, you could tell the owners read those reviews because the service got better.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you, Jim. And we've got 5 minutes. I just want to, I think what Jim really shows is the, again, he's serving now this web of small business. Like, where do people work? How are they out there? How are they making it? So somebody's showing up in Belfast, they're coming in, now his businesses that he's servicing, many of them are local, but Camden National Bank, that's not his client, but I bet he's thinking about it.
Well, we actually picked up, I did a seminar in Brunswick, and we picked up Androscoggin Bank. Brunswick, they put a new train station in, and the manager was saying, she said, Jim, I just don't understand. I get this phone call, I can see the person to get off the train, they're like 100 yards away in the old location of the bank. That's not good enough. This person's calling the bank manager. They are irate that this bank is not within 50 feet of where they're standing because they think that reflects on the customer service. So we ended up we've done quite a few of the Androscoggin banks down the southern part of the state.
I have a question. How many people were employed with your business?
I've got some contractors. I had a woman that she was a, Haley, that was a teacher and actually does really good at this data manipulation. And she just went to China. Talk about this international economy, right? She's going to be a teacher over there for 2 years. So I'm working with another woman in the area that's also a student and her son. So I've got the 3 of us working right now.
So three contractors.
Yep.
Neil.
Yes, a comment I want to make. People are always afraid of technology. They're always afraid of change. When they first started putting electricity in people's houses, they had to really convince people that their house wouldn't burn down if they flipped the switch wrong. And businesses as well. And the businesses had to be talked into getting telephones. You know, why would I have customers coming in the door. I can't stop to answer a telephone. That's rude to my customers. And if you 100 years ago had said, I'm not going to have electricity in my business, I'm not gonna have a telephone for my business, you wouldn't last it long. And that's where people are now with these things. And there are a lot of businesses around here still have not caught up,
Well,
and they need to.
those, I mean, you can, like we said, there are businesses that don't necessarily need, like say, I know a guy who's a knife sharpener.
Mhm.
He doesn't really need a huge internet presence. But if you want to sell letters from old marquees, you better have a global approach.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
That is exactly why we're talking about this, is that in the past, when I first showed up here, in the mid-70s, if you wanted a job that wasn't at the chicken industry or the shoe plant, and you didn't know anybody who would tell you, hey, you can start work with my brother-in-law who's a carpenter, you had to start your own business. Now, and it was all local. Now, not. So we're going to wrap it up, Ned? Is that what you're saying?
No, I was gonna ask a question.
Go ahead.
So,
You're
it
going to
seems,
interrupt me. That's good. Thank you.
no, I was waiting for you to call on me. So, okay, you mentioned like reviews. A lot of these sites, I think more as important as like knowing exactly where a restaurant is having a lot of positive reviews. In this world of, competition, I've heard where one restaurateur will like say negative reviews about a competitor and then there's companies that specialize in like getting rid of old bad reviews on your website.
So last night I was just looking at Amazon, and it was a thing on, because I was working on an Amazon thing, and it says, why do all the likes I bought not show up? And they go, well, because that's illegal and it doesn't work for us. But there are people who will provide fake reviews, good reviews, and hotels are famous for this. They get everybody on the phone, everybody online, get on there, give us a good review. You have to, and I use those reviews, I use them all the time. You got to sort through them, and you can kind of get a feeling. And so if you want to read, what do people think of Darby's, or Three Tides, or the Fireside Inn, or the Colonial Theater? I got some guy who, that woman at the counter was so rude to me. And I go, really? I was so shocked.
Yeah, people do read reviews, so we work with some of our clients. Everybody gets a bad review every once in a while because the customer could be having a bad day.
Right.
One thing that we found is that it's hyper critical for businesses to read and respond to their reviews, because the worst reviews are typically the one that the new customer reads, just to see what was the management response to this. And we've also found that if a business does not defend themselves in the review world, they will be picked on mercilessly. But if they say bad...
about the restaurant down in Portland where the kid was crying?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And the lady
Yeah.
get the kid out,
Yeah.
shut that kid up. Well, she got 1 billion reviews, and now many people hate her. But just as many people, more people will go there to support her because they were driven crazy. There was another one, I can't remember the restaurant, Chick-fil-A. The guy was against gay marriage or something, the owner of it, he came out against it. And many people started boycotting Chick-fil-A. Well, guess what? Just as many people started going there because they support it. So this is where people find this stuff. They don't all get it from TV. And so anyway, we're at past 11:30.
Thank you.
And I want to thank you all.
We hope you enjoyed the preceding presentation by Senior College at Belfast, located at the University of Maine's Hutchinson Center. For over 10 years, we have provided intellectual stimulation, practical knowledge, and social interaction and fun for members who come from over 50 towns in the Mid-Coast. With over 600 members, we're the second largest of 17 Maine senior colleges. If you are 50 or older, we invite you to join us. You might find out more by visiting our website at belfastseniorcollege.org or calling us at 207-338-8033. We look forward to hearing from you.